Committee meeting for Wednesday, September 9th, 2020. Per Governor Baker's orders, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, Section 20, the public will not be allowed to physically access the school committee meeting. This meeting will be conducted remotely via Zoom technology. For instructions to follow this meeting live, see the notice of the meeting posted on whittiertech.org. Start with the order of business with the roll call for attendance. Mr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Wood, Ms. O'Connor,
Here.
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker, Mr. Irving,
Here.
Dr. Testaverde,
Here.
Mr. O'Connor.
He was here.
Yeah, there, yeah. Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Present.
Mr. Lesage, and I am present. Okay. Right now, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all. Thank you. Public comment. Comments can be emailed in advance of the 6:30 p.m. start time to lran@whittier.tech.ma.us. All comments will be recorded to the record, and all attempts will be made to mention them live during the meeting. Any emails received during the meeting before the public comment period ends will also be attempted to be mentioned. There is a 15-minute total time for public comment, 3 minutes per person. Is there anybody in the audience that has a public comment? None being heard, we'll move ahead. For approval of the minutes, August 12th minutes of the regular school committee meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have to do a roll call vote. Mr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Wood, not present. Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Ms. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
and okay, moving on for the treasurer's report. That was added to your packet. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Let's do a roll call vote for the August treasurer's report. Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Okay. Old business, there is no old business posted. Reports and communications. We do not have a student rep as of yet. Any word on that, Maureen?
I promise once I see the students, we will have a student rep.
Okay.
After the meeting, there will be a student rep.
All right. Moving ahead, superintendent's report.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Tonight before you for informational purposes are a few hires for a dental instructor, a history instructor, working foyer, teaching assistants, a part-time library assistant, building substitutes, power school trainers. We have a new student platform this year, student information platform, so we needed to have power school trainers. It's going to make us very strong. Sorry, a little joke there. Cluster chairs and department heads and evening school program. Our evening school program this year is going to be a remote only program for the plumbing and electrical trades. So I really want to hand it to Tia Roy and Dave Cunningham for making sure that those programs get off the ground. I have a few resignations for you for a couple of route bus drivers, a cafeteria worker, and a plumbing and heating instructor. MCAS update. At this time, I do not have an MCAS update. We did have a meeting with the commissioner today, and he is still planning on moving forward with the MCAS exam. And he's also planning on moving forward with the spring MCAS exams. Because it's a federal law, he would need to get federal approval not to, as well as state approval. So at this time, he is being told that we will be moving forward with our MCAS exam. Budget update, Carol will go through her budget update in her report. On Thursday, August 13th, I attended the MAVA Superintendent's Director remote meeting. On Tuesday, August 25th and August 26th, new teachers reported to school. We had 5 teachers participate in the program this year. What was interesting and really fun was that 3 of the teachers were Whittier Tech graduates.
Oh,
Yes. On Thursday, August 27th, I attended the MAVA Superintendent's Director remote meeting. I will say with these remote meetings, I'm saving a lot on gas mileage. I attended the Newburyport, on August 27th, I attended the Newburyport City Council remote meeting. We were able to review where we started in March and where we ended up in August with our budget. On Monday, August 31st, all teachers reported to school. It was really nice to see our teachers. They were excited. There was a great feeling in the school with it finally having people in it and people excited to see our kids. The teachers were so positive, and we are all really looking forward to seeing our kids next week. On Wednesday, September 2nd, I attended the commissioner's remote meeting. He gave an update on on state guidance and schools reopening. On September 3rd, I attended the MAVA Superintendent's Director's remote meeting. On September 8th, I attended the Merrimack Valley Superintendent's Association remote meeting. And today I attended the commissioner's remote meeting. And at that meeting, he continued to review guidance and things that we need to open up our schools safely. And what I've explained many times is that we need to have a lot of flexibility because things keep changing and we just need to be able to adapt to those new changes. Today, I come before you to recommend that we postpone the fall sports season to the floating season, which would be February and March. I know for many of our families and for our students, this is a huge disappointment. But at this time, our focus needs to be on returning to school safely. And after we've done that safely, we'll add our extracurricular activities. I know these are really important to our students and to our families and to our school culture. At this point, I just feel like we just need to focus on returning to our academics safely, and then hopefully we will be adding in those other activities as the school year moves forward. Are there any questions or concerns?
No, I just wanted to add, it's wonderful to hear the teachers are excited
Yes.
and supportive, that we have a staff that wants to be there and is really working hard to get that done. And I think it's wise to do what we need to do in regard to extracurricular activities. Yes, we want them, but I totally concur that we need to get the academic programs going, get the kids in school, get them feel like there's some normality to their life, and then we can keep adding more.
Right. Also, much thought's been given to our lunch program. I think it's the federal government is now allowing breakfast and lunch for free for all students throughout the school. And so one of the things we've been thinking about is how we can have our students eat safely at lunch in the cafeteria. And we've been really looking at the codings of our cities and towns in our area. Right now, Haverhill is coded yellow by the Department of Public Health. When I read the map for today, I know it's going to be a little bit clearer later, but if I'm reading the data correctly, they are still yellow for this week. What I'd like to do is, while Haverhill is yellow, at least for 2 weeks, plan that our students will leave early and eat lunch at home. They will be able to have their grab and go lunch and take it home, not eat it in the bus, because that would create other problems, but they are to take their lunch home and eat it at home while Haverhill is yellow. And we'll reevaluate that every 2 weeks. Hopefully, again, allowing us to have our students back to school full time with lunch service. I just think that this is the right thing for us to do right now. It's the safest thing for us to do right now. The only time students wouldn't have a mask on is when they're eating. And in the cafeteria, there would be more than just their cohort in that group. So that is my recommendation at this point. Are there any questions?
Maureen, are you getting updated by the various health departments about the status of the cities and towns?
I call them if I have a question. And if, we have questions about whether we can have certain programs, or how many people need to be in a room and what distance, those kinds of things. With
Johanna?
Haverhill
Is this-
Department of Public Health.
Thank you. Does this allow our food service to pivot and adjust to, as opposed to in-house, by giving them a week to adjust to the grab and go? I mean, or do you feel, is that like a thing that they already expected they might have to do grab and go?
Well, it's Wednesday. Our students aren't coming until Wednesday, so we still have
1 week, right?
And
Yeah.
then, if we say that every Wednesday when this data comes out, that Monday will be where we'll make the decision on Wednesday, but by Monday, we'll implement that decision. So I think it does give them time to do that.
That was my only concern, is that they have plenty of time to make that transition. Okay.
Maureen, are we required to notify DESI when we make changes like this or anything?
I will inform them because I also, every time we've made a change, we've also contacted our Department of Public Health because we did send them the actual reopening plan. But yes, we will continue. They're going to receive a lot of paper because I feel like everything is flexible and can change. But yes, we will be informing DESI.
How many changes have we made so far, Maureen, to the original plan? Pretty comprehensive.
Right. So the original plan, we talked about changing lunch as far as the kids would be sitting in their own seat versus setting up the tables. We did send that over to the Department of Public Health. I did speak with them yesterday. I've asked them for one more walkthrough of our building to make sure that we have everything laid out correctly. It's always good for a second, third, fourth, fifth set of eyes just to make sure we have things properly done, because this is serious and we want to make sure that this is a safe place for our kids and our staff. So
Maureen, do you want to support a vote for both the sports and the lunch program? Or are you all right with just informing us?
that's really up to the committee. You don't have to have a vote, but it certainly wouldn't hurt. So that everyone knows where everybody stands.
So does that mean that the fall games that are allowed by the state are all forfeited?
Those will move to the floating season, yes. And so my understanding is those sports would only be soccer, golf, and cross country. So all of those sports that would be allowed right now will move to the floating season.
Golf in February sounds like Florida time to me.
Mr. Irving, it's going to be a very mild winter. I'm just sure of it.
Let it be so.
She's telecommunicating with somebody.
That's good. I'm glad someone is.
Does someone want to make a motion?
I'll move that all fall sports and extracurricular activity be moved to the floating schedule later in the winter in February and so on.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second. Oh, wrong.
Okay. Any more discussion on that?
We're not voting for the school lunches right now. We're just voting for the sports.
All right.
Yes.
Postponing
And
the
then we'll
sports
bring the next one
until,
up for another vote.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
well, do we, all right, we'll vote on this. All right, Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Regretfully, yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. True,
Sadly, yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Okay. Dick, you mentioned about the
The
voting
bag
on
lunch.
the bag lunch. I think that's something Maureen's gonna have to use her judgment on. We eat every 2 weeks, so I don't think that's anything that we should be voting on. It's kind of it's gonna be
We
on.
just give her
as
the permission to do it.
We can if the committee likes, or finds it. Is it required or?
No, it doesn't matter to me.
We could just make a motion that Maureen can adjust lunch schedules as needed
Needed.
during this school year.
Okay,
It would be
That's my motion. Allow Maureen the flexibility to adjust lunch schedules as needed for the 2021 year.
Second.
there was a second.
Second.
All right, any more discussion on that?
Can I just make a quick little
Yeah,
amendment? I'm
sure.
not just changing the lunch, I'm allowing kids to leave early. So change the lunch schedule, allowing students to leave early, would probably be clearer.
Okay.
Are we gonna be putting this out on the Whittier's homepage or something, just to make sure we're communicating with the parents and they're aware of it?
Yes.
Okay, all right, roll call vote. Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor? Okay, Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Ms. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Maureen, you still got more?
I do. So at this point, I could go on and on. We could be until 10 o'clock tonight, but at this point, we have about 100 students that are choosing to be remote only. The academic instruction will be provided by a company called Ingenuity, and this has been recommended by the state. And Whittier instructors will oversee this program. Right now, we have 2 full-time teachers that are remote only, and they will be overseeing that program. But we'll also have our day instructors checking in with our students. We've asked parents to commit to a half a year of remote instruction just for consistency purposes. And we're hoping that things will improve in January and hopefully we'll be back and not want remote instruction. But I did want to update you on that. And then my goals for this year, I'm going to be completely honest, these goals were taken right from our back to school guide. This year is going to be different. The one thing I did want to add to facilities is I will continue to work with MSBA and our 11 communities to update our school facility. I think it's important. We have not dropped that ball. We continue want to move forward with an MSBA renovation / building project. So are there any questions I can answer regarding my goals?
You have a goal to just make it through the year. That would be a good one.
Sorry, Chip, you're kind of wonky.
All right. Never mind. Never mind.
Do you want to put it in the chat? And I can read it?
We lost Chip. Any other questions? Discussion? Do we have a motion to accept the superintendent's goals?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call vote. Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
yes.
Mr. O'Connor. No, he's there someplace. Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Ms. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Okay. Principal's update, Mr. Laganis.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Chairman, Superintendent Lynch, rest of the school committee members. As you heard, on August 31st, we had our first day back for staff in our in-person PD hybrid model. We split the auditorium up into two groups. We had a morning group and an afternoon session. And like Superintendent Lynch said, we just loved seeing everybody that was in person. And there was such an excitement in the air that people were getting back to work. So I thank everybody. That was a beautiful start to this PD, the 10 days of the PD. So our in-person hybrid professional development is continuing as we speak. And the trainings will go through September 15th and obviously right before the 16th when the freshmen and new students come in. Some of the trainings included our Power School, as you heard from our superintendent, which is our new information system. HotWorks, which is a certification for the trade areas and the vocational training. An online class for the staff members in social, emotional, and academic growth. And we also had a face-to-face hybrid and remote learning. And yesterday we did the technology carousel of all the Google platform, the Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Chats. And then department meetings went on today. We also had an all-staff meeting today with all 100 and something staff members, actually 200. It was the entire building. And then we're going to have ended up on this Friday, the PD, and an in-person presentation on cultural sensitivity. And that's Dr. Adolph Brown, who's coming through the doors on Friday. So it's going to be quite a performance there. So once again, I thank our staff who, they train the trainers. They're doing a lot of our PD in all these different areas. So we're working together as a team as usual to get ahead of the game and be ready for our kids. On September 15th, right before, as you heard, our remote-only freshmen, we're going to be giving them their iPads because they're not going to be coming to the building, but they're going to get their iPads and come pick those up and get their schedules. And then, again, as you heard, on September 16th, the students roll through the door, the freshmen and new students. And then, as well as the 17th, Group A comes through the door. And then the 18th, Group B comes through that Friday through the door. So it's going to be quite an interesting, slow start, as Superintendent Lynch said. And we're going for it. And we're ready to keep everybody safe. Again, the in-person meetings are taking place. I can tell you it's a pleasure. I don't know if Maureen likes when I'm in there all the time and asking her questions, but now we're in person. I know she likes seeing my face. So, which is covered up with a mask, but I get it. But yeah, no, the administrators were having a great time in person, social distance, 6 feet apart with masks. And believe it or not, we're in person having our meetings now and not on remote, type of platform. So, and once again, I thank everybody, just the Whittier team, includes the school committee, that we're taking this fight in these unprecedented times. And we do what's best for children, and you can see that. So I thank everybody.
Chris, with the 100 remote students, is that a breakup with all like 25 seniors? How is that broken down?
Yeah, so it's broken down 9 through 12 are
Yeah.
together, and then like 10 through 11 are together. So it's broken up in different areas, and then they're separated also by freshman exploratory. There are only 17 of those kids,
Okay.
so they kind of have their own little cohort,
Yep.
if you will, because it's just remote. So, and then there's some elaborate schedules, if you can imagine,
Oh, I can
that
only
Sabrina
imagine.
and Patty, and as you know, Mr. James, that are out there that, we're going to push out pretty soon.
Yeah.
So,
I have a question in regard to a request, and I hope it's not too imposing. But after the end of the first week, is it possible for you guys to just send us an email to say things went terrific or we had a few bumps, just so that we know that things are going well, and we keep our fingers crossed, and if you need us, we're there for you, but just let us know, because we're all as concerned and hopeful with our fingers crossed that you guys are doing terrifically. So is that a terrible possibility, or?
you have 2 thumbs up from me, Superintendent Lynch. Yeah, absolutely. We're right in this together, all of us, and hitting it real positive, and we're just going to try to keep everybody as safe as possible. That's it. And get our kids through the door if we can.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Good point, Joanne.
Any more questions for the principal? All right.
How about special needs? Do we have, how many kids are coming back, or they all remote, or they're in-house special needs students?
So it's funny, I reviewed all of that information. It's pretty evenly split out as far as grade level, special ed, vocational technical area. I looked for a trend and I really didn't see one. When I looked at reasons why, a lot of the reasons were family medical issues. Some students have asthma. It was really, I honestly didn't see a trend that I could report to you one way or the other on any of that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move forward. Business manager, Kara?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Superintendent Lynch, members of the committee. So in your packet, you had 5 or 6 pages of information about our proposed revision to the budget. And just to summarize for you as well as the public who might watch this later, on April 8th, and I looked at this date and realized that was 5 months ago, wow. The school committee approved a total budget in the amount of $27,559,456. And that represented a 6.3% increase, which was primarily driven by an unprecedented 11.24% increase in our Chapter 70 money. As a result of the economic realities that were facing the state of Massachusetts due to the outbreak of COVID-19, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education was forced to revisit its allocation of Chapter 70 funding to school districts. And at that time, we were told to anticipate rather significant decreases in funding. So in response to this, the administration reduced staff and froze expense budgets. I know you were aware of the staff reductions because the superintendent reported those to you, I believe, in our June meeting. And we also asked the school committee to approve usage of $500,000 of our excess and deficiency funds to help offset what we anticipated we would lose in revenue. On August 10th, The revised Chapter 70 funds were released by the state. And although we were reduced by $516,495, and while our community member assessments were reduced by $257,329, the reduction was not as drastic as we had originally anticipated. However, it was a reduction, and therefore it still required that we adjust the FY21 budget. In total, you have several pieces in your packet where we detailed the salary accounts where we made reductions to. And we reduced the salary budget by $995,574. How did we accomplish this? Well, we eliminated some programs such as music, art, and world languages, as you know. We shifted as many salaries to grants as we could. We redeployed staff wherever we could, and we did not fill new or vacated positions. As a result of these reductions, we also do not feel that we will need to use the $500,000 of our excess and deficiency funds that you voted in June. So that can stay and hopefully be put in our stabilization account later on towards our feasibility study and our building project. So where does that leave us? The revised budget results in an overall increase of 2.48% to the Whittier FY21 budget, and an average 0.82% decrease to our community member assessments when we look at the difference between FY20 and where we are in FY21. Therefore, the superintendent and I are respectfully requesting that you approve the adjusted FY21 district budget in the amount of $25,868,882, and I welcome any questions.
Question.
So Bell,
What happens to these transferred salaries when the grants run out?
Well, we will have to. One of the reasons I'm not planning to use the $500,000 in excess and deficiency is as we get to the end of next year and we get a feel for where the grants are, we have the ability to once again use excess and deficiency money to help offset the FY22 budget. Again, we won't know where we are until we're in next spring, but we have that option. We were fortunate that we didn't lose any grants this year, and we had a couple of grants that were specifically related to COVID, but obviously we realize that we will have to be very careful going forward because we don't know what FY22 is going to look like.
Okay.
anyone else? Can we have a motion to?
I was just going to say, it looks like we had to do a lot of work, but it looked like that you guys have been able to cover it so that we can continue and again, look for a positive outcome for the year.
I would say that's a fair statement. You know, we did the superintendent and I had many discussions. We did lots of iterations, lots of, if we do this, what happens here? If we do that, what happens here? But the reality is until we received the number in August, we really had no idea. And at one point we were told, or we were expected, that we might have to reduce as much as $2.5 million. So the reduction was nowhere near as egregious as we had thought. So we were able to handle it by making shifts. And as you know, at the end of one year, we usually do a lot of things that we purchase in advance, and we did that last year as well. So all of those things combined allowed us to continue with, you know, obviously not factoring in COVID, kind of status quo with at least our academic and vocational programs, relatively speaking.
Kara, how are we going to be hit financially with all of the necessities we had to do for COVID? Is that going to make a major change, or have you got that somewhere in all of the numbers?
Well, districts, municipalities, as well as regional districts were given COVID relief grant funds, and we received about $282,000, and we used that grant to purchase pretty much all of our PPE, at least that we were able to provide, that you saw in the video that we presented to you last month.
Mhm.
As we go forward, we've used that grant up. As we go forward, it will depend on what our needs are going forward. So we will address those needs and financial impact of those as they, happen. I don't know.
Congress
Yeah.
is still debating the money to go to municipalities, so that might help out a bit.
Mhm.
How confident are we of Chapter 70? Is that firm now?
Yes, I do not believe that this number will be decreased. I believe that this is the minimum that we can expect. I'm not expecting, we always get another bump. I'm not necessarily expecting that, but I believe that this is a definitive number.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joanna?
So I looked at this list of the municipalities and the increase, and it's not, it's not exceptionally large for, say, Newbury, but, still, have all the towns been notified of this increase, and have you heard back?
Actually, Ms. True, that what you're seeing in red,
Yeah.
or the last column, is a decrease.
Decrease.
That's a decrease from what they were originally,
Yeah.
they were originally given the number
Oh,
on the left-hand
oh,
side.
it's a decrease. Okay, we're good.
So no, we have not notified them yet.
They'll be pleased to lunch. Okay, thank you.
I can't notify them until you approve the revised budget, but once
Yeah.
you do, I will notify them.
Are you going to be sending out one of those new, revised that we signed, and then, okay. Yep. Thank you.
Charlie?
How much of the stabilization fund is accounted for?
We haven't touched the stabilization account. We unfortunately did not put any money into it at the end of FY20 because we were led to believe we would need money to fund this budget. But hopefully we can put a good amount in at the end of FY21, assuming we don't need E&D funds to offset any funding reductions for FY22.
So you rather use the E&D the money back rather than use the stabilization funds?
You broke up on me. I didn't hear you.
So the stabilization.
You rather stick with the E&D account than use stabilization funds if needed.
The stabilization funds, we have committed to our communities for the feasibility study with MSBA.
So all that money's committed, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Kara, I just want to say, I know this is a lot of work for you and your staff, and you did a great job, and you basically did the budget for this year twice.
That's okay. I like my numbers. I'm a nerd. I tell Maureen that all the time. But
I would say more than twice, 3 or 4 or 5 sometimes, and we kind of have a new little idea.
I'm just glad that it was not as devastating as we had originally been led to believe. That's all. I didn't care how many times I had to do it if it made sense and worked out for us. But
I'm sad that we had to cut the arts and the music and those programs, the foreign language. Looking forward to being able to get that back in order as soon as we can. Maybe not this year, but hopefully for our coming year to come, because those programs are as important as all of the rest of them in our school.
I said to the staff, this is not the ideal education system that we're working in this year. This is what we have to do to get through this year. But, seeing those programs cut was devastating.
Yes.
And, not having fall sports is nothing better than a football game in October.
Yeah.
There are lots of losses this year.
Mhm.
But hopefully we have a safe school and, people feel comfortable learning here. And that, if I make that my priority, that it helps me stay focused on the other stuff.
I don't think you can have any other priority. The fact is the kids have to get back to school, and academics has to be the first. And we're, from everything you and your team have provided, we are following a very logical plan to meet the needs and make sure that the kids are safe and their families are safe. So I think we keep saying it. You guys are doing a terrific job.
Well, the proof will be in the pudding next week now, won't it?
We'll be waiting to get the email.
Yeah.
Thumbs up, guys.
All right, do we have a motion to accept the revised FY21 budget?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, committee chairperson, October annual agenda items. We'll have the variance analysis coming up. We'll have an update of capital and equipment purchase and replacement plan, the 5-year plan. And a review of the vocational technical programs. We did have the annual organizational meeting somewhat scheduled, but we're gonna
Mr. Chairman,
postpone that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
at this time, because of the situation in the nation, I move that reorg be postponed until April 12th of 2021. We will do a reorganization if that's agreed to by yourself and the offices. And that would be the second Monday in April, followed by April 14th, which would be the public hearing on the new budget.
that'll be going back to our regular dates.
Regular
basically.
date. At this point in time, we don't know what's going to happen, so we may end up setting it to.
Got a motion?
That's the motion.
I second it.
Any discussion? We'll do a
Brett, you came up to the task.
roll-
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've done a
Roll call.
great job, Brett.
Thanks. Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Okay. Moving ahead, subcommittee reports, executive, we have not met. Is there any need for a meeting in the near future, Maureen?
Not at this time.
Okay. Instructional personnel, Dr. Testaverde.
We haven't met either, and I think we should wait and talk about it at the next school committee meeting, because maybe I'm saying probably we'll need something just to kind of get a feeling of what's going on, and if we need to hear about reworking various aspects of what we've implemented, et cetera. How do you feel about that, Maureen?
Oh, I definitely think we should meet. Our instruction this year is going to be completely different.
Right.
So yes, we should probably meet and go over our remote learning plan and as well as the hybrid plan. And by October, we'll be able to have a better sense of where we're at with both of those and any kind of changes that we need to make them more effective.
Do you want to set a date? And I assume we're going to do it by Zoom, or can we come in if there's only a few of us? And what would you like?
It's completely up to you. Maybe if by the October, because our kids aren't coming in till next week, maybe after the next school committee meeting, we can go over, and it would give us a chance to kind of look at to see whether it's working well or not.
That sounds good. So at the next October meeting, we will set a personnel meeting for after that for discussions, et cetera. Is
Perfect.
that where we're at?
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, plant operations, Mr. Tucker is not here, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the last August 12th plant operations meeting. Motion to approve,
So moved.
second,
Second,
roll call vote, Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Abstain?
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Ms. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Salary negotiations, Mr. Early.
Yes, we're gonna talk about that a little later.
Okay. Policy, Mr. Irving?
We have not met, and I assume that the superintendent will bring any updates to us. Again, being an unusual year, we may have something come down from the state. So we'd be prepared to move exponentially on that.
Okay. All right, that's it for subcommittee reports. Meeting dates, the regular school committee meeting next month, October 14th at 6:30 PM via Zoom again, probably. Are there any other dates that we need to stick in there, Maureen?
Right now, thank you.
Okay, there is no new business posted. We do have an executive session. I need a motion to enter into an executive session to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel,
So moved.
pupil personnel, and strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, 12-month staff, as an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee, and upon completion of executive session, will return to open session. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second. Roll call vote to go into executive session. Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Ms. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we need to pause for a second, so hold on one moment. Chris and Kara, I don't need you at the meeting, the executive session.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night, guys. Stay
Good
healthy.
night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Good
Good luck
luck.
next week, Chris.
All right. Hello, everyone. Just one moment while I pause the recording, and I'll take the live stream down, and then I'll bring the live stream back up when we resume regular session. One moment, please.
Do these have to be announced?
Lisa, does Brett need to announce these?
Have to vote on, do the votes.
Okay.
We vote them kinda, I guess.
But they don't have to be announced to the public.
Yep, we have to do them again to the public.
All right.
What you did in open session, I mean, in executive session.
Yes.
Okay, you're all set to go.
Okay, we're coming back from executive session. We have some votes to make. As far as contracts go. We need a motion to accept Director of Personnel Services contract. Do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Ms. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Okay. We need a motion to accept the hourly, well, not hourly, but the non-union personnel as
So
outlined.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
yes,
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Ms. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Okay, we have a few here. We need a motion for salary increase for the Director of Technology and Information Services, the Director of HR Administrative, Assistant to the Superintendent, the Business Manager, the Comptroller, Plant Facilities Manager, Director of Community Partnerships.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
yes,
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. True,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
All right. I don't think there's anything else.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Early,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
yes.
Mr. LaBella,
Yes.
Mr. Irving,
Aye.
Dr. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mrs. True,
Bye all.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good luck.